Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Now, if you're familiar with this channel, you know we love flipping popular conventions on their head. We oftentimes criticize the Jedi for their controlling ways and try to examine the positive aspects of the Empire. The Jedi and the Sith are on the opposite sides of the same coin. Now, in one of our last episodes, we talked about why the Jedi Order isn't as great as everyone makes them out to be. Now, if you want to check out that video, we'll link it up in the corner. Today, we're going to be focusing on the Sith, and we're going to talk about the 5 more positive aspects of their order. Unlike the Jedi, many Sith choose their path freely for themselves. A part of this is because the Sith don't solely recruit younger individuals. Granted, they sometimes stole Force-sensitive babies for gruesome experiments, but on a whole, babies weren't their ideal recruits. That's because most non-ginger babies weren't born full of evil and malice. Oftentimes, the best Sith recruits were individuals who have experienced the full life themselves, and have built up hatred and anger as a side effect of how screwed up the galaxy around them was. During the time of the Brotherhood of Darkness, the Sith had set up academies all across the galaxy. They recruited individuals from all kinds of different backgrounds and ages. Bane, the creator of the Rule of Two, didn't join up until he was a full-grown man. He had a tough childhood and grew up on a desolate mining world. His father abused him until Bane finally killed him and then went on to join the Sith army. It wasn't until he had distinguished himself on the field of battle that he was recruited by a Sith Lord for further training at the academy. By the time he was there, he had a lifetime of experiences to draw powerful emotions from. The original Sith, or the OS, were actually former Jedi. Some had even obtained masterhood in the ways of the light side of the Force and had seen just how limiting it was. Sure, everything looked sleek and beautiful from the outside and things ran like a finely tuned machine with a very intuitive interface, but the OS realized that there was more. More power, more freedom that could be found in the chaos that was the Sith. The OS realized that the Jedi had created a finely tuned system which sought to control and keep its followers in mediocrity. Give them a one-size-fits-all solution that was barely adequate. The OS realized that the Jedi wanted conformity, and the price they asked was to exchange your individuality and the very emotions that made you human for this promise of stability and equality. But the OS, like any driven individual, wanted to upgrade themselves, and they wanted to increase their brain's processing power. They wanted to gather and store more information at a faster rate, and reach for the power that the Jedi had forbidden them to take. While many Jedi turned to the dark side, very few Sith turned to the light side, and the ones who did were originally Jedi anyway and found the infinite options available for the Sith terrifying and returned to the more familiar and comforting Jedi Order. But because many of these Sith were taught in the ways of the light side, they actually were more balanced and objective individuals. Their experiences are closer to the ones of the original Jedi, who are the ancestors of both the Sith and Jedi Order. They used both the light and dark side of the Force and chose the proper tools for the proper jobs, and weren't just limited to one operating system. The Sith had very few rules. In the Sith academies of old, you could pretty much get away with doing anything as long as you weren't caught. This meant students were constantly sabotaging or killing each other. It created a very tense and cutthroat environment that chewed up weaklings but sent the strongest to the top of the class. It didn't matter who you were either. The Sith didn't care about your station in life or your race or even your beliefs. It was all about strength and who was the most competent. Darth Bane eventually realized that there was a fundamental flaw in the Brotherhood structure. Weaker individuals could join together and defeat much more capable individuals. Bane realized in order to root out weakness, he had to destroy the entire Sith Order and start over again. He created a Rule of Two in which only a master and apprentice were present at all times. This way, things would be balanced. It would always be a one-on-one struggle for whom was the best, and the master would continue seeking stronger apprentices until finally their apprentice defeated them. This was a true meritocracy where only the best reached the top. Individuals with Force powers were naturally superior to ordinary beings. They were not only physically more powerful, they also had the ability to manipulate other people and read their minds. And in the words of the great philosopher Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. Instead of devoting their power to fixing the many problems in the galaxy, they devoted themselves to their Order's teachings and their own self-development. During the Clone Wars, they let themselves be governed by the Galactic Senate, which was full of lesser beings far less capable than themselves. The Sith, for better or worse, always understood who they were and were comfortable with the immense responsibility their power had given them. They wielded their power without constraint or guilt and used it to change the galaxy around them as they saw fit. They realized because they were more powerful, they had a better vision of how the galaxy should work. The Jedi believed that balance and tranquility are the natural order of things. But if you think about it, the Jedi were all about fighting human nature. It was all about suppressing desires, emotions, and everything that differentiated man from machine. As a matter of fact, one could argue the perfect Jedi, especially during Yoda's Jedi Order, could be best personified by a droid. Obedient, emotionless, and lacking individual thought. But let's think about it. Is the Jedi Order's worldview actually correct? Is the galaxy's natural state all about balance and tranquility? Aren't the periods of peace and stability just suppressing the true nature of the galaxy? For instance, when you put cute bunnies in a video game, the majority of people will eventually kill that bunny. Given no constraints, no consequences, no moral judgment, one cannot help but set that bunny on fire or chop it into little pieces. The Sith embraced natural impulses, they embraced our emotions, and they channeled these things into power. They believed in breaking the chains of society and civility in the pursuit of whatever they wanted. Saying that the destruction of the Sith would bring balance to the Force was the greatest lie. In the end, the Sith and the Jedi were both extremist organizations that were so blinded by their own prejudices and fears that they were both missing a large piece of the puzzle. The purpose of this video, and many of the videos we do, is that there is no greater evil than an individual who deals only in absolutes. Which in itself is an absolute, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Whether it's Mac versus PC, Star Wars versus Star Trek, or Jedi versus Sith, our energy is best spent learning from each other rather than being fanboys and throwing metaphorical feces at each other. An individual who spends his life improving himself rather than bringing others down will live a life with much less regret. Put that crap on a fortune cookie. If you guys didn't know already, me, Ben, and American version of Ben have started a new channel called Generation Films, where we take our unique way of looking at Star Wars and apply it to all types of movies.
What?
Check out our latest video where Ben goes over the 5 most ridiculous deaths in movies. Don't forget to bring your adult diapers because you will piss your pants from laughter. Thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.